Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth is ordering hundreds of U.S. generals and admirals from around the world to gather in Virginia next week. Sources tell CNN he plans to lay out his vision of the Pentagon as a Department of War and push what he calls a warrior ethos. Here's Hegseth's take on generals and admirals from last year before he was leading the Defense Department.
You've got top-down political generals who've gained rank by playing by all the wrong rules that cater to the ideologues in Washington, D.C. And so they'll do any social justice, gender, climate, extremism crap because it gets them checked to the next level.
So this upcoming meeting has been described as a more of a, quote, general Squid Games than a strategy session with new fitness and grooming standards and a warning to get on board or risk their careers. Now, some say this news story, this is the latest Trump administration move against DEI, a decades-old Defense Department committee that advised the military on how to support women in the service has been shut down. One panel member says the end of this committee will be a loss for the country. The Pentagon says the committee is focused on advancing a divisive feminist agenda that hurts combat readiness, while Secretary Hegseth has focused on advancing uniform, sex-neutral standards across the department. Now, established in 1959, the Defense Advisory Committee on Women in the Services has provided policy recommendations over the years to the Secretary of Defense, advice like properly fitting body armor for women and appropriate health care. Joining me now to discuss this is retired Marine Captain and Executive Leadership Coach Angie Morgan. She's also the author of Bet on You, How to Win with Risk. Angie Morgan, thanks so much for joining us this morning. So let's talk about many of the recommendations affected all of the service members, not just women. So issues like family planning and parental leave. I mean, do you think that losing these advisors will have a negative effect on military readiness?
I think it's really important to understand that DACOITS, this military advocacy group, is an independent, facts-based research organization that guides and advises decision-making. So absolutely, this is going to have a long-term negative impact on women for generations to come.
All right. Well, before he was nominated to become Defense Secretary, Pete Hegseth said he didn't think that women belonged in combat. He did, however, change his tune for his confirmation hearings. Let's take a listen to this.
I'm straight up just saying we should not have women in combat roles. It hasn't made us more effective, hasn't made us more lethal, has made fighting more complicated. We support all women serving in our military today who do a fantastic job across the globe in our Pentagon and deliver critical aspects of all aspects, combat included.
Yeah.
You know, I just wonder what kind of effect his changing views, this recent cut, is having on women in the military and future recruits.
It just doesn't seem consistent with the history that we've seen women perform in combat. We have seen women, female engagement teams provide our service members critical intelligence that saves lives and drives performance. And there's a very interesting tune that has changed from, and I've heard his quote say before that, you know, women should be life-giving, not life-taking. I know amazing women leaders in the military whose history, whose performance shows differently. And it's just, again, interesting to see a change of tune. But we've also have to judge someone based on their actions. He's been purging women leaders from senior leadership ranks, and that has a devastating impact for young women entering the Marine Corps. To not have role models at the top levels of your organization who look like you, who perhaps could advocate for you, that is very dangerous for combat readiness and troop morale.
Yeah, speaking of senior leaders, you know, we were just talking about how hundreds of senior officers are flying to Quantico, some from combat zones, and they're going for that urgent meeting ordered by Secretary Hegseth. And sources are telling CNN it's expected to resemble a pep rally, a defense official telling us that it's about getting the horses into the stable and whipping them into shape. I mean, how do you think the top brass is going to react to this meeting?
I think the premise is that we haven't been driving results, winning wars, representing our country. We've been doing an amazing job, our service members, for the past couple decades, heck, for as long as our military's been established. So it's almost to say that we're not performing when our history is of top performance. We have an incredible national defense. We have amazing service members. So to call into question their performance is significantly concerning to me as an American.
And now that you're outside, you're retired, so from that outside perspective, what do you think about the current state of our armed forces versus when you were serving?
I am so impressed by the work done by Dakowitz, by the work done by the Department of Defense to create a military that is high performing, that has combat readiness and can drive results. And that includes having women represented in every single career field there. I am for performance-based organizations. I'm for high standards. And so I think we've been doing an amazing job making sure that this organization is fit and ready for the challenge at hand.
Do you still speak to people who are still serving, still in the military? Like, do you have a sense of how morale is and what's going on?
Absolutely. I still, to prepare for this conversation today, I connected with a few of my colleagues, not just from senior leadership ranks, but from frontline. And to be honest, I have a young son. He's 20 years old. He's going to be a Marine Corps officer in 2 years. So I've connected with everyone. And I've found, pretty consistently that there's a lot of surprise and concern about the status of women in the military and what this means for women going forward. I hope and trust that our service members lean on their cultures that have been established, like in the Marine Corps as an example. Our values are honor, courage, and commitment. I think right now is the time for every service member to lean into their values and let that be a North Star. For many service members across different branches, we see what's going on at the top leadership levels coming from the Secretary of Defense. It is concerning. But again, I hope that what endures are the values and the leadership principles in the organization.
Yeah, follow that North Star. Good advice. Angie Morgan, thank you, and thank you for your service.